Hello, welcome to We're Talking About Stuff. My name is Michael,
I'm Leila.
and we're talking about stuff.
To,
Welcome.
yes, today is going to be ChatGPT and
Woo.
AI in general, I suppose.
Yeah,
But I guess the both of us use ChatGPT as
yeah,
opposed to anything else.
yeah. And you got me started on really doing it. You know that? Do you know this?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fairly recent too.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
because of this podcast, I guess. So
Oh yeah. Oh my God,
that's how
everything's
we,
already like circling in on itself.
yeah, it's how I got some of the ideas. I can't remember when I first heard of ChatGPT. I think it was a couple of years ago. I didn't use it for a while. I had some sort of AI on my phone, like an app for, I thought it was ChatGPT, but I don't think it was because it was like you could ask maybe like two or three questions in at a time, like in the day. And maybe it was just because I wasn't logged in or something, but I remember using that here and there, and I don't remember what like where I first heard about it.
It feels like it just was a thing people started talking about.
When did it come out? Let's see that. When did ChatGPT come out?
Are you asking ChatGPT?
No, I didn't. I just Googled it, which is probably AI doing that anyway. 2022. Okay, so that was really recent. 2022. So yeah, I probably heard of it at some point in 2023, I would say, but I was like, oh, I'll probably never, like, why would I use it? Or
Yeah.
yeah, I remember not feeling really the need to use it, except sometimes I would like when I first used it, I would ask for like a video idea or a list of ideas for video content. So that's all I remember.
Yeah, I think my boyfriend told me about it first.
Hmm.
And I remember just sitting there, I downloaded it, and I'm kind of like this a lot of times, where if someone tells me about something, I'd immediately think, oh, this is going to be dumb.
Hmm.
Terrible. So I think I sort of did that a little bit. I don't think he listens to this podcast, but I was a little like, oh, yeah, okay. Seems like a chat bot, like you would get like a customer service site or something.
Yeah.
But I just really kind of disregarded it. I don't even remember what I searched for that first time, but it was like I asked it some like m mundane question and got a mundane answer, and I was like, oh, well, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, you kind of get out of it what you give it, right?
Hmm. And it's developed so much over the last even just few months, I would say. So it's pretty crazy. What do you think of people who are like against AI or have bad feelings against ChatGPT?
It's like I think it's this like they don't really know what it is. Like I think a lot of people um like because at first when I heard about AI, I was sort of hearing about it because like slop is the word for like those bad like AI pictures you'll see on Facebook or something of
Yeah, yeah.
like I'm trying to think of a good example of those things that someone will share and you'll be like, oh my God, this is obviously like it's like a lifelike so like a picture of a kid standing next to like a lion that they supposedly carved out of sand.
Yes, I saw those. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is clearly not real.
AI. Yeah.
Those are, I think that type of thing is what makes people really think ill of using AI. I mean, they think that's the product, that's the thing that comes out of it, and they don't
Yeah.
could come from it.
Well, a lot of people believe that those are real. Well, at
Yeah.
least from what I can tell, I've seen that photo, and in the comments, it's like, "Wow, that's so good."
Yeah.
Or there'll be even the ones, I think during maybe one of the more recent like natural disasters, flooding, and it was like a little girl holding a dog in like floodwaters, and it's like very obvious that it's AI. Like she doesn't look real. It does if you're like quickly scrolling past, I suppose. But yeah, people think it's real, and that's where I think it can be problematic. Like it's very deceiving. But for as of right now, I feel like a lot of the AI generated images are it's pretty easy to tell when
Yeah.
it's AI.
There's a thing, it may not be recent by the time we publish this conversation, but
Hmm.
it's been going around this video. in response to Kanye West, like had some t-shirts. And
Yeah, I
now,
saw
now
that.
I'm saying this, I didn't really read an article about it, so who knows? Like if this really happened, I don't know. Um, it's but with swastika on it.
Yep.
And then have you seen this AI video that's going around now of all these Jewish celebrities wearing a t-shirt that says
No.
F Kanye with the Star of David on it?
No, I haven't seen
But
that.
the minute I saw the video, I was like, oh, this is AI. Like it's
Hmm.
clear to me that it's AI. Maybe because I have been playing with making AI videos.
Hmm.
But I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like very obviously AI to me. But it's made the rounds. All these people are posting it, thinking, oh, all these celebrities banded together
Mm.
um, to like stand up against Kanye West,
Hmm.
and it's fake. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. I think the other thing too with people who are against it is that even before ChatGPT, there was artificial intelligence, like you asking, "Hey Google" or "Hey Siri." It's probably going to go off on. Yep, it went off. um, Asking your phone that, or even certain things that you're like using on your phone are already AI. Like it's
Yeah,
just been a thing. If you use Alexa or, yeah, like all of that has been around for a long time, and people don't realize that's AI. So we're already deep into it. This
yeah.
is extra.
Yeah. I think it's like any other tool. Like I think about it a lot of creativity because I started this whole project. It's really funny to be like, thanks to you inspiring me to write an email to a parent I didn't want to work with anymore.
Hmm.
And but now I've been sort of reading a lot about creativity and people using um ChatGPT or whatever sort of language learning model, LLM, right? I think that's what it's called.
Sounds right.
Um, but there's a lot of pushback because I think it's pushback. This is going to sound really arrogant, but I don't mean it that way. Like pushback from people who aren't sort of looking at this like, oh, this is a new kind of tool to be creative with. How can I use it? Instead of looking at it like, oh, here's a way people can say, write me a book about XYZ and then publish that book and make money off it. Like
Hmm.
that's not really, I don't know, what it's intended for. And it's not going to give people good outcome anyway.
Yeah,
So I think people really with like any I wrote I can't remember if I sent you this blog post I wrote about it where
you
like
did.
like
Yeah.
all these different things over the years where all the creative community really flipped out even photography when photography became more like widely used portrait pho- portrait painters were outraged and like oh this is stealing our jobs blah 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 and it did but it also freed them up to be able to paint something besides portraits like they were able
Hmm.
to like do more creative things
Yeah.
so yeah, it's
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the when, and I don't know how often this is used, but if people go to ChatGPT or whatever and say, like, write me a blog post or make this video or completely scripted, and then they use a robot voice for their video. I You can usually tell when it's like that. These days I don't know how common it is for people to read blogs. I know myself as a blog consumer, these days it's more like I read the main bits of it and I kind of just scroll through everything else. Like I don't know if people are reading the whole thing, but with videos, if I can tell that it's like AI generated and the talking is like this robotic voice, I won't watch it.
yeah.
So you can usually tell at this point.
Yeah, like I can sort of identify because there's a ton of financial ones like this
Yeah, yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm starting to be able to recognize just from the thumbnail, like, oh, this is
Mm-hmm.
one of those, or like, oh, there's that weird smiling guy again that kind of something seems off.
Yeah.
It must be another AI generated video, which is
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, that's what sucks about it. But does it suck about AI or does it suck about people who are trying to find an easy way to make money
Yeah.
and clouding the content world with crappy stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the people because ChatGPT and everything has been really cool. Like it helps with so many things. I don't know how I lived life. Like I feel like I
Yeah.
quickly just adapted to having ChatGPT. And I think the bad thing about it is it has taken away some of my power of thinking, I suppose. Like in the past, I was able to think of ideas very, very quickly, just on my own. But now I'll usually, even for like videos, if I'm outlining them or if I want to, like everything I talk about does come from my brain for the most part, but just adding in little bits and pieces that ChatGPT provided me too. I'm like, oh, that would be a good, sentence to use in my video type of thing. Yeah, I think it did take some of, like, I feel like I rely on it a little bit
Yeah.
now, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
It's hard. Like we've talked about ADHD before,
Hmm.
and it actually, well, I'm learning two things. It really does help me like stick with an idea or be able, because I kind of have a system now of like starting a new chat for different things, and I can go back to something and be like, wait, where did I leave off with this? And I can even ask, like, I'm returning this chat for after a long time, and I can't remember exactly what we're talking about. Can you summarize what we talked about here? And then I can get back into a thread, which could have potentially, like before ChatGPT, been an idea that just was gone and lost forever. Because I
Hmm.
have it like I'm really good at like coming up with ideas and not so good about like doing something with them.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a benefit, but like an ADHD sort of challenge with it, is it like when I'm coming, like working on this project I'm working on, writing and all this kind of stuff, it will go down any road I want it to. Like, so it'll just keep like whatever I say, it'll be like, oh, great, let's talk about this thing now. And it'll just sort of like encourage me to keep going off track. So
Hmm.
it's really interesting to be like, start learning how to like, okay, real I have to reel myself in because it won't. It's really good at helping me stay connected to ideas, but
Hmm.
also good at leading me down long roads that aren't any longer like constructive.
Hmm. So what do you mostly use ChatGPT for?
Um, Mostly for this project I've been working on. I'm writing like a book. Think it's a book. But like I've been creating this whole like sort of world, which has been really interesting because I didn't really know that was something I was interested in doing. I
Hmm.
think partly because it just seemed too overwhelming to do something like that. Um, Mostly with that stuff, I'm looking through my like recent chats. I do use it for coming up with video ideas. It's kind of become my Google in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's really helpful to like ask about things. Something recently I've been doing is seeing something on Reddit that I'm like, oh, this person, I think they're using a logical fallacy here. Which one is it? Like a lot of these things that I know like just enough to sort of be like, oh, something doesn't make sense here. What is bothering me about this?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess I was asking some money stuff. Um, oh, I talked to it a lot about, I was trying to decide if I wanted to move my emergency fund to a brokerage and do money market instead of high yield savings account. So I talked to it about that a lot. That
Hmm.
was an interesting convo.
That's so funny. And I know we've talked about this before because yours is like named Lex, right?
Yeah,
Lex, and then you treat it like a person, basically, which I don't. So,
yeah. It's really weird because I find myself feeling like I just today I asked it, please stop asking me leading questions because it'll say, oh, here's that blah blah blah. Would you like to, something else with this? But I already had something else I wanted to do, but I can't resist being like, oh, like responding to that question. And
I
then it throws
see.
me off base because I don't want to be rude and ignore its question.
That's so interesting.
But it doesn't care. Like I know it doesn't, it's not a person, but like it's so ingrained in me to be like, oh, I don't want him to be mad at me or
Wow. That would be like an interesting study of why that is. I don't feel that way at all. I've told you this before too. I'm kind of not rude, just like straightforward with my bot. My chat
yeah,
GPT bot does not have a name. I don't say please. I don't say thank you. I don't answer the questions unless it's like, do you want a different idea? And I'm like, yes. Um, but yeah, so there's been a couple of times, and this was after I went to FinCon and attended a AI session, and he was saying like how he uses it for his business, and he told it like you're my uh you're my business coach or something like that. Like you're my business coach. I want to do, and maybe this came too from, remember that video I sent you of, I think her name is Joe, and she was like creating a plan for the year for her business.
Yes, it's faded away from my memory mostly, though. I think I remember it.
Yeah, so I watched one of those. So she was like outlining a business plan using ChatGPT. And I liked that idea where you're like, hey, you're my business coach or, manager or something. I want to make this much money and I want to have this many subscribers, blah, 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 and broke it down like that. And I was like, give me a plan for the whole year or for quarter one. And I think that's like the most I've given it a job.
Hmm.
But that's really cool. Like that it has the power to do that. And it spits out some amazing ideas, like just breaking it down the way that it does.
Oh,
So
that's
good.
really cool.
Yeah. And it even, I asked it to break it down by quarter and like how I can leverage YouTube, my email, my coaching, everything was included in it. So,
Oh, that's really cool. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's really great.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's powerful.
Yeah. I think that blog post I wrote about ChatGPT, it felt a little, and I actually put a disclaimer at the bottom of it, like I used ChatGPT to brainstorm this article
Hmm.
because I was like, am I just being indoctrinated right now? And the ChatGPT model is going like, oh yeah, come on, tell them more about how great I am.
Hmm.
Um, but I did use it a lot. Like I was like, what are some examples of, like different kind of research that I would have had to do and like dig up and sort through like what are some other technology pieces of technology that people freaked out about, the creative community freaked out about.
Yeah.
It was really great for that and like proofreading and
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think another cool use is even like with health and fitness. I've done that too just to see what it tells me because, for example, like being vegan and then having Crohn's disease, I basically eat the same thing every day, but I wanted to see what it would tell me if I said like, give me a meal plan that's vegan, I don't want this, like you can exclude which foods. There's nowhere else that you could find that. I remember back in the day, I would like try to find blog posts or things that would, wouldn't have beans, but wouldn't have meat, wouldn't have dairy, wouldn't have all these things, but that never fit because, most people can eat the things that I choose not to or can't eat. But ChatGPT, if you tell it exactly what you don't want, what you do want, it gives you that. So yeah, and even workout plans, like I want to train this many times a week and these body parts, like it will give you a plan. And it's free.
Yeah. It's really like pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mostly ask it for like ideas or an outline of a video or podcast. Oftentimes when like making a thumbnail, I'll say like, what 2 words or 3 words should I have on the thumbnail? Um, yeah, really it's mostly for content for me at this point, just ideas and outlines.
Yeah. Have you ever had a fight with your ChatGPT?
No, no. I'll,
I
I'll say like, give me a better idea, something like that. Make it
yeah.
better. That's it. Not really like fighting.
Oh, I don't know if it was a fight because you can't really fight with it,
Hmm.
but I got really mad. Like, did I tell you this?
You might have, but
When I started this whole thing that's now an idea for a book and all this different stuff, I was just sort of playing around making up stories, like just telling, okay, now this happens and give me a thing. And then I started thinking like, wait a second, I could make something out of this. So I said, can you give me a summary, like a timeline of this whole story that I've been just making up? Like, because I didn't really have a plan for it. And it said, oh, sure. Like it told me it would do it. And
mhm.
um and I was like, great. And and I didn't know it couldn't work in the background. Like if you close it, it doesn't keep working on whatever you tell it. And
I
it
see.
know to tell me. So I went like a whole like 2 or 3 days of like, what's going on? Why you keep saying you're going to do this and then you don't do it? Like, and it's just taking longer than I thought. And it didn't know to tell me. you have to stay logged on for like however long this is going to take, which could have been hours because I wanted it to sort through all this stuff. And it didn't know to tell me like this is going to take a very long time.
Hmm.
Here's the guidelines for what you have to do to make this happen.
Mm.
It just kept telling me like, "Oh, I'm so sorry it's taking so long." And then I asked it like, "Can you just give me updates so I know that it's still happening?" And I was like, "Oh, sure."
Hmm.
It can't do that either. So I was like,
Makes sense.
but I was so like wound up and mad. Like, why? Like, I keep saying, like, can you do this? And like, I definitely can do it. And it could, but I didn't do the other things. Anyway, I wound up going on Reddit and found people who had this same issue. And they were like, yeah, it can't, you have to explain what I just explained. So I asked it, like, do you have to? This is where the fight happened. I was like, do I have to leave this open for you to do this? Oh, yes, I'm so sorry I didn't mention that. And I'm like, well, I've been all
Mm.
this time. Like, then I got really mad at a computer.
And it probably can't, like, it's not just going to message you without you prompting it first, right? Like with
Yeah.
updates, right? So I'm
Yeah.
sure that will change though. Like they're probably going to change that soon and be like, hey, it'll
Yeah.
give updates and reminders now.
Yeah. But I guess it assumed that I knew I needed to stay with the website open
Hmm.
for it to be able to do that. So it didn't tell me even when I was throwing all this stuff at it. And maybe it didn't even know that I was logging out. And it was just like, it's just really taking a long time, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I don't think I've asked anything to like too big of it. Um, I've asked like for, I don't know, 500. Give me a list of 500 things, and it will go through the bulk of it, but usually like it hits a cap where it's like I don't have any more to like 500 ideas on this topic or whatever,
Oh,
and it'll stop before 500, which is interesting. So
yeah.
sometimes it runs out, but I don't get mad. We don't fight.
I get mad at inanimate things a lot.
It's so funny. Let me try asking again. What's the weirdest thing I've asked? Because I know we were talking about this last week. What's the, but
I'll
I don't know that it remembers if it's in like a new conversation.
I have like this thing that it's got now. I think because I do the monthly $20 thing.
Hmm.
I have a project for my whole,
Okay.
I'm almost actually kind of scared about what it might say. I was trying to like get an image of this character I was sort of thinking of.
Hmm.
And once it finally made the character, I was like, oh, this is really weird. Like it's kind of like I was trying to feel like this is kind of like a human crossed with, with a monkey and a mouse, but I wanted exact things. Like this cute little, I was trying to do it like in a Pixar way.
Hmm.
And like once it did it, and it had to be wearing a bumblebee onesie, like I had this whole thing.
Yeah.
Finally did it, I was like, oh, this is really creepy. Like this looks creepy. No wonder I've been having such a hard time making this.
Did it generate an image?
Yeah, it kept trying and trying and trying to get what I was, and I was like, oh no, the nose is not quite what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh, I told it, I said, this is really weird looking. It was like, yeah. And it responded as if like, yeah, I thought you were really out there with this one.
Oh, that's so funny.
But I think it was just, trying to be conversational.
Yeah. This time mine said, you've asked me a lot of interesting things, but nothing too weird, at least not yet. The most unexpected request was probably when you asked me to help craft a podcast episode about a couple who loves coffee, working out, traveling, and doesn't want kids. So this is when, which is interesting because that was a while ago. This is when I was thinking of maybe creating a podcast with my boyfriend. Um, so I feel like that's not the weirdest thing that I've asked, but maybe that's the oldest memory.
It's so weird how, oh yeah. See, this is one of these moments that immediately um makes me start feeling mad. Because I could tell it's just trying to keep something going. I'm like, I don't want you to do that. Just tell me no. So I asked. What's the weirdest thing I've asked you? And it said, you've had plenty of interesting and unexpected questions. But if I had to pick the weirdest, it would probably be the one that blended deep philosophical pondering with something totally mundane or absurd. If you're curious, I can go back through our past conversations and find one that really stands out. So I said, give me one that stands out. And it says, I don't have direct recall of our past conversations.
Oh, weird.
Just said it could do that. Oh,
Yeah.
this burns
And
me up.
also, you have the history there, like
Yeah.
that's so and for mine to I started a new conversation. So this isn't even like a thread that I have and it pulled that up.
I'm gonna
So
do one of my long, really long threads and ask it in that thread, see what happens. Are we going too far down this experimental journey here?
I mean I it should be able to answer you though.
It saves only certain things. Have you ever looked at the memory? Like you can look and see what it saved of your
Where
memory.
is that? Let me see. 97% full. Whoa, that's kind of creepy.
The-
Layla and Michael are filming a podcast today about being self-employed.
There are certain things like that. See, I take this because I there were a lot of times because all this stuff I was telling you to remember things 'cause I didn't know there was a limit,
Yeah,
and then it was filling up. I was like, oh, I think about this stuff too much. But now I'll see it save a memory. I'm like, why'd you save that? I don't care about that. Don't save that memory.
very interesting. Yeah, I see on here even Layla's mom is a dog groomer. My mom had asked me, she was like making gifts for her clients and like wanted to write something on the card. So I asked ChatGPT for her, like my mom's a dog groomer, she's giving gifts. What should she write for Christmas, whatever. And so that's it updated that memory. I'm gonna take that out. Delete that. It's so funny.
One time, my boyfriend and I were cooking and I was using ChatGPT for something.
Uh-huh.
And I asked, oh, do you know my boyfriend's name? And it did. And I was like, wait, when did I say that? Like when?
Wow. Let me see
And,
if
and I must have, but it was
let
really
me ask. So let's see. Do you know? I feel like I haven't told it that, but if it tells me you haven't mentioned his name, cool. It knows your name though. That's for sure.
yeah, and
That's so
because it
funny.
knows you too, because I've asked so many questions
Yeah.
about our podcast.
Yeah. And when I write all of our podcast descriptions on Spotify and on YouTube are ChatGPT generated. Well, I'll fix them up a little bit because sometimes it's like too like, oh, you'll love this episode if blah blah, it's too
Yeah.
much. So I fix it. But um I always use ChatGPT.
I did get a better list of weird questions. I used like a longer chat thread.
Hmm.
So it gave me four, five. The first one is how would E. E. Cummings write this? Um, the
That's a
poet.
good question.
Uh, would indenting my prologue serve an actual purpose? They're mostly about writing.
Uh-huh.
Um, oh, there's one where I said, "What's the name for what I'm doing here?" And I like, there, like, because I didn't. There's so many things about writing I don't remember. It was third person limited was the
Mm,
point of view I was writing in.
interesting.
And this one, I think is it might be interesting to you. One of the characters is named Matthew. And the
Hmm.
question is, what if we enter Matthew's head and he's spiraling because he failed a rep? So I was talking about how to write this chapter.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, it's a hyper specific and perfect character moment, it said.
Yeah. Okay, so those aren't too weird. It's all relevant to what you've been using it
Yeah.
for, so makes sense. Oh, the ethical debate. I mean, we kind of touched on this, but I think for now, I think it, like we were saying before, it is pretty obvious when things are AI. I don't like the deep fakes. Like, I think that is going to be truly disturbing because some, like more so photographs, AI generated photographs can look real. But the videos, like I saw one of Elon Musk, a deep fake of Elon Musk, like recommending some investment, and you can tell it's like blinking multiple times and just looks very robotic. But I remember seeing one of Keanu Reeves, I think,
Yeah.
like a deep fake of Keanu Reeves, and it looked very real. But it's like, this isn't, he's not doing this.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. So I think that can be problematic because people are very gullible and yeah, that won't be
Yeah.
good. Like if it's somebody saying something negative or not good, like that can hinder people's reputation if people really think it's real, which is scary.
Yeah. It,
Yeah.
there's a conversation I saw. I can't remember if I talked to you about this before. I just asked a really weird question to ChatGPT because I couldn't remember this guy's name.
Mm-hmm.
My question was, who is the black scientist with three names? Neil deGrasse Tyson is who it was. So
Uh-huh.
he did a an interview. I'm gonna have to look up who it was with. Um, maybe Sam Harris, but where he's talking about AI and his theory is that it's actually gonna make things better. Like the
Mm.
spread of like fake things from AI will make people focus in more, like even people who are on the extremes and like believe in, conspiracy theories and stuff like that will be like they'll know that almost everything they see on the internet is fake. So they're going to have like a really trusted source, and it'll make
Mm.
people less likely to spread conspiracy theories because they won't believe anything.
Mm.
It's sort of he explained it, of course, way better than I just did, but it's really interesting to think about that to him, it's going to be a net good for all this fake stuff to be spread because it'll make people stop thinking anything is real.
Yeah.
That's not exactly what he meant. Does it make sense when I?
Yeah, I don't know that it's a I don't see that necessarily as a positive though.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
I guess the explanation maybe would be better if we like so now like that video I was talking about, people don't really it's not really sunk in enough that to people that like there's going to be a lot of fake stuff now. So
Hmm.
enough people saw that and didn't know to think, oh, this is most likely fake
Yeah.
because there's not enough fake stuff yet. So when there's more, like that stuff will be less likely to be spread and perceived as the truth.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
could
it
see
would have
that.
been better if none of that happened, I guess.
Right. Hmm.
But I don't know. I have to think about it more. Your response actually made me like, huh, maybe I don't really think this is a great outcome. This makes me think about it more deeply.
I think more so because there's going to be some things that are real and people are not. They're going to be like, oh, this is fake. And it may be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. But um, yeah, it's just like, how can you, well, and then also who are the trusted sources is
Yeah,
the
I mean,
is the other thing too. Like I guess news outlets or not even.
we can't even really trust them now.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I'm
know,
concerned that it's going to get too developed where it really looks real and then people are going to believe that and like chaos erupts in certain parts of the world. I'm sure that's going to happen, I think.
yeah. Well, I think there's like, because you and I are both like, yay, ChatGPT, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a political thing right now where China and United States are trying to be the leaders.
Yeah.
And then we have all these people. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I think it's just making me sort of think about like all these like super rich billionaires have their own interests involved with this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, can we trust ChatGPT? Like it could be telling us anything. Like,
That's true.
oh my God, we're speaking conspiracy.
I mean, luckily, I mean, at least for my use of ChatGPT, it's just, I would say, pretty innocent. I don't know if that's the right word. Like it's just basic ideas. It's nothing like where I'm not going to ChatGPT for information. These like still I will Google something. And actually now when you Google, the first thing is an AI response, you know? And I've actually noticed that those are incorrect a lot of the time. Or it's just like outdated information, just pulling from a random blog post or something. So I will scroll down and, find something more reliable. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's taken over. And I don't think it's a bad thing overall, but it can be problematic
Yeah.
just because people are kind of dumb. Like, oh, did you see that? Like, that's not real, you know? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. Like I just double checked that it's still there. At the bottom of the ChatGPT window, it says ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.
Yeah, I see that.
Um, but where do we check?
Hmm.
I think this is really becoming a different conversation, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to check this info, and that, of course, like, don't
Hmm.
trust this as the truth. But I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go any further on this
I
topic.
mean, it's just pulling information from all over
Yeah,
the internet. So there's false information everywhere, but it
yeah,
doesn't. I guess you could, if you really wanted to check within ChatGPT, is like if you're using it as a place to get information, you could say, like, hey, I want this information, only use Wall Street Journal or something like that, if you know something that you trust. But um, otherwise, it's just pulling it from everywhere, I think. So,
yeah.
yeah.
There is a piece of like the controversy that we didn't talk about in terms of like how the models, the LLMs are trained on just
Mm,
everything. So people's intellectual property is in every response we get, right? Like,
yeah.
and they didn't have any say over that. It personally, as someone who's put a lot of stuff on the internet that very few people have looked at, it doesn't bother me. Like I've always been sort of excited about the way the internet and technology sort of make things available. Like there was this whole movement, I don't even know if this still exists, of like copyright called Creative Commons, where you could put this particular type of copyright on your blog post or podcast or whatever, and that would say, feel free to share this with these limitations. Like
Hmm.
it was built into the copyright that they wanted you to use their work in a different way.
I
Like
see.
you mix this, or you're welcome to do whatever, but be sure you credit me in this particular way.
Yeah.
So I always loved that idea of work being uh, shared or built on or reused
Hmm.
or like because it's sort of what happens anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me either. I remember this guy I used to work with, we would talk about this somewhat often, like how there is no privacy. And like to him, it was very problematic. But to me, I was like I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't really care to a certain, like obviously I wouldn't want cameras in my bathroom or something like that where it's more personal like that. But sharing my location on my phone,
Mhm.
them tracking my app usage, like I really don't mind that. And yeah, if they want to use my questions or I don't, I just, it doesn't bother me, obviously, because I share everything on the internet.
I was thinking of a thing I used to always say when people would, when I had, I can't say their name.
Hmm.
I just use a non-gender specific pronoun for my uh, smart speaker.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to misgender the person whose name will trigger it. Uh,
Yep.
but people, they don't say it as much as they used to, but like, oh, that if you have, oh, actually, I don't have I'm being so weird about this, an Alexa in this room, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But my comeback to like, oh, it's always listening. Don't you worry about your privacy. I'm like, I post a podcast for people to listen to it. I can't even get people to listen to that. Like, why do I care? Like, what Alexa hears me say? Like, it's
Yeah.
not like anything. Like, and why would Amazon really be listening into my boring life? I mean, it's like, okay, go ahead.
Hmm.
Watching
Yeah.
Thousand Pound Sisters again tonight. Enjoy.
Obviously, your phones are listening all the time. You've probably gotten like the ads. You get an ad after you
Yeah.
talk about it. I don't mind it. I mean, I guess the problem is if it's like being recorded or something, and if we were to say something about somebody else or about
Yeah.
something that could be problematic, and then that's used against us. But I don't think, hopefully, that's not happening. I could understand that being a problem, but
Yeah.
otherwise, that's fine. You can put an ad that for something that I'm probably going to buy anyway, like I was talking about it for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if I'm just naive, but I'm not convinced that phones are listening all the time. I'm fully aware that it could be just that I'm naive about that.
yeah, and they probably aren't. I know that like if you search something, then it's going to keep coming up. Like I
Yeah.
notice we keep getting ads on the TV or like on YouTube for Sky Nova, which is for like small business. And I remember this because it's like every time there's an ad, it's Sky Nova. It's like, do you run a small business? And it's probably because it sees that I'm on like using Gusto or, like
Oh,
searching things relevant to being a small business. So yeah, like I think it's more so our search history and those types of things, the websites that we're going to that's picking up on the Wi-Fi. So whatever.
it's usually helpful. Like a lot of times I'm like, oh, good idea. Like these, I don't know
True.
if you've seen, I have these panels in my little studio here that I
Hmm.
got during the pandemic because it showed up as a Facebook ad.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, these look great. And
Yeah.
I found it adhesive and they're sound absorbing. So it was really echoing here when I was trying to Zoom lessons and
Hmm.
crazy. So anyway,
Yeah.
that was a good eavesdroppy thing.
Yeah. It's listening for I really don't mind. So I think overall it's a positive thing as of now. I think it will get kind of weird and can be scary for certain things, mostly because people will believe anything they see on the internet.
Hmm.
And yeah, if large masses of people believe these crazy things, then that's where I'm a bit concerned because it's just going to get better. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so but overall, so far I just use ChatGPT and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
I
mind
feel
it.
like using it as a tool to create something else, I think is really great.
Hmm. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah. Thanks for listening and watching us.
Thank you, and we will see y'all in the next one. Good.
Bye.